Hello and welcome to our channel. Today we're gonna speak about UFC 271, and this time we have a great event with lot of interesting fight, and this video is devoted to the main event, Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker. This is quite interesting fight, and I think that Israel Adesanya is a big favorite in the mind of books, but I don't think it's quite fair. Actually, I don't think that the both fighters have a lot of changes since their first meeting, if to be honest. Of course, we took a lot about their improvements, but I didn't think they improved quite enough to see the different picture completely. For example, if we talk about Robert Whittaker, he has 3 fights since first meeting with Adesanya. It is Kelvin Gastelum, Jared Cannonier, and Darren Till. And in all 3 fights, he showed the old-fashioned Robert Whittaker. I didn't think that it is bad, but it is still the same dog with the same tricks. Nothing new in this fight that he showed. It's the same amount of skills that allowed him to beat the Yoel Romero and capture a belt for the first time in his career. And it is still quite a huge amount of skill set, but it is still the same. What I mean, he talked a lot in his interview before this new fight with Adesanya that he going to mix up his wrestling skills and use much diverse approach. But I don't believe in that, if to be honest, because he never been a good wrestler offensively. Of course, his defensive wrestling is very good, and it is his weapon, but of course not against the Adesanya. And vice versa, Adesanya have a good defensive wrestling skills, and he able to use it against a guy with good wrestling skills like Marvin Vettori, and use it successfully. So, of course, Robert Whittaker has some wrestling. And what I mean, if for example he will fight Gohan Saki or some kickboxing specialist, yeah, in this case probably his wrestling skills can make a difference in MMA fight, because obviously he is very well versed fighter. But against the athlete like Adesanya, I think we can forget about the wrestling for Robert Whittaker. From flip side, from this perspective, we can say, okay, it will be the exact repeat of the first meeting. And I don't think so. I'm not sure about that because I think we a little bit underestimated the kickboxing skills of Robert Whittaker. I think his game is very tricky also. I say more. No one in a fight with Robert Whittaker with pretty much same size can be sure that he will win the kickboxing exchange. Did I think that Israel Adesanya is the best kickboxer? Yes, for sure. But Robert Whittaker has quite chaotic style when he's moving in and out very quickly, and his attack when he move inside of a range. And his do it's very explosive. And he's quite short fighter, especially for middleweight division, because he's move up a weight class. So one this long time ago, of course, and the most of his success he has during his middleweight career. But still, he has obviously reached disadvantage. It's I don't know, 3-4 inches. He lose in reach department to Israel Adesanya, and that's why he has to use this type of style when he very aggressively move inside of a punching range and try to hit with his hands during his movements. And this one is really tricky. I expect that he able to catch anybody in the world. I don't say that Robert Whittaker is a favorite. I think that Israel is a favorite, and that's quite fair. But I'm not sure that the amount of credit that he received from the media is quite fair. I think that the difference between them is not so big. And the chance of Robert Whittaker is quite good. I think it's 35-40% easily. So it's plus 200 maximum or plus 150 in terms of odds will be quite fair for Robert Whittaker, I believe. And if we come back to their first meeting, I think that he has a chance, yeah. He tried to attack aggressively, and of course, Israel Adesanya is a great kickboxer, and he control the distance. So he um, slip back and move back just enough to make the Robert Whittaker misses. And yes, it's worked the first time, but it doesn't mean that the same recipe will work for second time. It is high probability that it is so. But Robert Whittaker, of course, has a good chance of landing something and cut Israel Adesanya. And of course, for Israel Adesanya, it's all the same. Yeah, he has to do the same things: try to control the distance, try to make Robert miss, and land his counter punches. He's excellent at that, and this is his route to victory. What is not so exciting for me about this fight that, in my opinion, they have to exactly repeat the same tactic that they used during the first meeting. Because they both use the right tactic that give them higher probability to win. And it's just the flip of a coin. Who will be, more lucky in this particular day will be victorious. Of course, Israel is favorite. He has better chances. But I don't think we both have to change something in their approach to this fight. And it's make it quite not so interesting for me because it's always much better when one fighter have to completely change their approach and try something new because the plan A doesn't work during the first meeting. And I don't think that's the case for this fight. Of course, there is a dangerous for Robert Whittaker that he didn't understand that. Of course, you are right, and he's tried to do something new, something different. And maybe the coaches make that mistake and tell him to do something different. And for example, try to chase the takedown. And I don't see that work. Of course, who's know? Maybe I didn't be in the camp of Robert Whittaker, so I don't know. Maybe he's improved his wrestling dramatically, but he's a 30-year-old and I don't believe in that. I think it's quite impossible to learn new skill in such a short amount of time. And we didn't see that inside of his last performances. And of course, yeah, the takedown is not necessary to use to try to tear our person down. It can use to distract our person and make him think about the takedown to open the possibility to land a strike. And yes, this is, for example, I think this is what Jan Blachowicz did a bit in fight with Israel Adesanya. Because if Israel concentrate only on the kickboxing match, yeah, he won the kickboxing exchange, but he was taken down. And otherwise, if Israel Adesanya focuses on the takedown game of Jan Blachowicz, I think he able to stop it, even despite his strength disadvantage and weight disadvantage. But in this case, he can't win the striking exchange because he have to concentrate too much on the takedowns. So yeah, it's worked like that. And if you have a takedown games, even if you can't have a good takedowns on your opponent, it still play in your favor. But this is not the case because the difference between takedown defense of Israel and takedown offensive game from Whittaker is too much. And if you never did that, effective during your career, it's hard to expect that you can do it against the champ who is doing the otherwise the defensive mode very effectively, but against the higher level guys. So that's what I expect from this fight. The exact repeat of the first meeting. The kickboxing exchange, no effective takedowns, and in my opinion, if Robert Whittaker try to take Israel down, it will play in the favor of Israel because Robert will spend a lot of energy And I think if he shoots from far, he presents a lot of opportunity for Israel to hit him clean during his entry to the wrestling range. And from a clinch position, from Greco-Roman style wrestling, I didn't believe it at all because Robert Whittaker is very explosive person, and I believe that he can shoot a power double to take some person down because he really can close the distance very fast and reach the leg very fast, very explosive. It doesn't necessarily double leg takedown, maybe something else, but still. But if he go to the clinch, especially with advantage in the reach and height for Israel Adesanya, I don't believe he can successfully manipulate the Israel Adesanya's body. And honestly, I think that Israel Adesanya will be heavy during the fight night, because he's much taller guy. Of course, Israel is skinny, and he's not the heaviest middleweight. But Robert Whittaker is not huge middleweight as well, and he's very short. Short guy, short hands. So, so I believe that yeah, Israel Adesanya will be the same weight or have a weight advantage during the fight night. So it's pretty simple. Nothing special for us during that fight. But it's still a great fight because we both a very special athlete, and if we, to be honest, if we look at the rest of the division, there is nobody who is at the same level as these two guys now. Because of course, maybe Yoel Romero at his peak was at the same level, and Luke Rockhold many years ago was at the same level, etc., etc. But for now, Jacare is go away, Yoel is go away. They both are old and not relevant anymore. Chris Weidman, Luke Rockhold, they both became old, and we have whom? Paulo Costa, who can't make weight and who lose to Israel Adesanya pretty decisive. We have Marvin Vittori, who is a great athlete and can be a champion. Yeah, he's a champion caliber guy, but he lost to Adesanya decisive as well. It was 5 round affair, but still it was a pretty good advantage for Israel. And if to be honest, if I try to imagine the fight between Robert Whittaker and Marvin Vittori, I didn't see any chance for Marvin because he loses the strike in exchange, pretty sure. And I don't think he can take down Robert Whittaker because he has a very good defensive wrestling as well. And we have Jared Cannonier that we have to speak later when we discuss his fight. But still, Jared Cannonier is lose to Robert Whittaker. Yeah, maybe we can give him some excuses because he has broke his arm. And yeah, it is a factor in this fight, but still he lose pretty decisively. It was one-side affair for Robert Whittaker. So these two gentlemen now is the peak of middleweight division for now for sure, and maybe in the history of sport. This is much more arguably, but maybe. So of course, it is a very fun fight to watch. So I hope you enjoy the fight, and thank you for your attention. See you later, guys.